the question is, what's going to free all of us?
Right.
What does freedom look like?
Yes.
And who gets to determine the pathways to freedom, or help build these, who gets to lead that charge, right?
Yes.
And I think that's the conversation. And everybody who's stepping up to get in that space, because for whatever reason, what are your receipts? Have you built anything?
Right.
Have you created the framework for success in Chicago, in Newark, in Oakland? Like, where are your works? You got organizations in all of these cities. Where are your success stories?
That's right.
That we can look to and duplicate. And I think, if we start there, then it doesn't become personal, because I don't want it to be personal. I just need there to be. I'm just tired, Dr. Carr. I'm tired of us being it, because I see the future, and maybe several months from now, maybe next year, I pray to God this is not it, but we'll be right back here talking about the next hashtag with a handful of colored folk, because there'll be Black and others who will have platforms and book deals, TV shows. Come on, and they'll be millionaires.
You know how it works.
While the struggle will continue, because y'all now have made it and you're good.
Well, but this one, I think, and like again, I think it might be a little different because of its ungovernability. That's why I think, and I say that because, like you said, the field of violence we operate in is unchanged since they started this mess. Now, people can say we made progress, and we have, but we can evoke Amiri Baraka, who said, talks about the changing same. Yeah, it's changed and it's the same at the same time. And when you said this, like we need to be free, we need to free ourselves. It reminded me of our dear sister, my girl from Birmingham, Alabama, by way of New York and now Philadelphia, Sonia Sanchez, who always said, yeah, but how do it free us? In other words, I understand everything you said. I understood it all, but how do it free us? So in that process, I guess the reason I think this one might be a little different is because the momentum, I think, has the capacity to overflow, to exceed the boundaries of being governed by any one group. We need the Urban League. We need the MSCP.
Absolutely.
We need the National Action Network. We need people with on-the-ground infrastructure who we can channel things through. If you want to lobby, yes, we have the Leadership Committee for Civil Rights. We got the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights. We need people now, the young people in the streets, yes, and between them and those organizations, we got Movement for Black Lives. We got BYP 100. We got Color of Change. They're all different kind of formations. Now, some of these corporations going to come out and try to fund some of them and then be like, now, once we got you on salary, we're going to move you around a little bit here and there. But guess what? It's too large to contain now, because those who are making the real money, Nike having, some people are calling it woke capitalism. I think it's woke capitalism. But guess what? You kept Kaepernick out the league. Then your man's down there in New Orleans comes out as if ain't nobody fight in World War II except his granddaddy. And
Drew Brees, yes.
You know what I'm saying? My father and 7 of my uncles on both sides of the family were in the war. And I'm not saying that because I'm proud, because they were drafted and all could have been killed. I'm saying that to say you ain't pulling no bloodshed card on us when it comes to a reason for the flag. You, that flag, and your mama can go away forever. I don't never need to see
not their mama, Dr.
My grandmama, great grandma, all the way back till it was my mother, my mitochondrial Eve or Dinkinesh, because your mama is my mama. So let's be very clear. Ain't none of y'all come from nowhere except us. So you don't get to pick on no white nationalism. You can wrap yourself in that flag forever, because I ain't never wanted it while you playing for the New Orleans Saints with a fleur-de-lis on your side, which is a symbol of the Virgin Mary, who goes back to ISIS. You don't even know the symbol on your hat. So just be quiet, Mr. Breezy. But at any rate, the point is, when them brothers came out on him, they was like, nah, Drew Brees. Then he went to apologize. But then when they made a little video the other day, and you see all these guys, including the quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs, the most valuable player, and I ain't watched the down of football since they won their Capitol back in the league.
Right.
But now, hold on, that's Patrick Mahomes. So now here come Goodell, the chief manager of white supremacy for the National Football. Now he want to get, why? Y'all scared now. And now, guess what? Jimbo Fisher at Clemson. the coach at Texas A&M. Now they got to say, why? Because these boys and these young sisters who play basketball, run track, now they looking like, you know what? I'm not going to LSU. I think I'm going to Grambling. I'm not going to Alabama. I'm going to go to Alabama State. You know what? I was thinking about Duke or North Carolina, but I'm going to play for A&T.
And they should do it anyway. Do it anyway.
But Professor Brenner, what's what I'm saying. We've been saying that for years. But this, which is why I think this may be a little different. I think they're hearing it differently now. I don't know if you saw the young cat who's a sophomore in high school.
Yeah, I talked about him.
Oh, did you? Mikey Williams, right?
Yes, Mikey, the best player, sophomore in the. I'm thinking about HBCU. Don't think about it. Do it. Tell it. Come on, let's do it.
This is why Nike. This is why they're coming out with the ads now. Because
Nike was smart because they went on a Kaepernick. They funded Kaepernick. Nike recognized that Kaepernick's jersey was selling out even though he was not in a league anymore. So they recognized the value, the commodification of Kaepernick before the NFL figured it out. Because I always said it was stupid. If it's about business, his jersey's outselling and he doesn't play.
Yes.
And people are going to show up to hate him and people are going to show up to love him.
That's true.
You're gonna sell out and you're not gonna lose. You're not gonna lose.
Yes.
But your racism wouldn't allow you. So this is why I know racism and capitalism actually don't marry well, because you will lose your money, your business, your bus company for your stupid ideals.
Yes.
Every time.
Yes. Well,
they're losing a lot of money. They're losing money. They're losing money right now. They don't even know it.
Sure.
They don't even know it.
Well,
so anyway,
no. Please don't apologize, because I think this is where it gets very complicated. Capitalism, we know in its purest form, is a zero-sum game. People who are making profits don't care if people don't have anything, as long as there's a market for them. If the market is saturated or there's no market at all, then they have to adjust it. That's why I always say we live in a capitalist capitalist economy, but politically it's kind of democratic socialist in the sense that there are some safeguards, because you've got to have a market, you've got to have employees. But
and not everyone's going to be like Henry Ford, who's smart enough to say, let me pay people enough so they can afford the very cars that we're making.
That's exactly right. And I'm a whole racist, which means
I'm a whole racist, right?
No question, no question. And I'm gonna have my segregated town of Dearborn, and but at least they will have a salary. But the point you're raising, though, I think, is where we get into what is very hard, difficult now, which is why we have to have education. We have to have study. It doesn't have to be in a formal school. It's like what we're doing now. We had to have these conversations, and then we have to study it, because capitalism operates in a system of structural inequality that it's more compatible with. And so, not to get too deep into the weeds on this, but because I'm not a Marxist, I don't believe in labeling, these things like this. But when you start talking about the critique of political economy, if you have a system that is set up to the advantage of those who have, owners, however you want to put it, the elites, however you want to put it, but you have most of the people in that society who don't have what those people have, and that inequality keeps getting larger. At some point, that system is going to implode unless you have some checks on it.
Well, unless you were wise like the United States and placed a fake construct called race on it, so that the people, even those that don't have, as long as they're white, and the majority of people in this country that don't have are white,
yes,
as long as they can hold on to something that makes them feel valuable over the next person,
right,
you can continue to spread that income, that wealth gap.
That's right.
Without the consequences.
Well, until they suffer to the point, until two things happen. Until those people who you have convinced have a material interest in whiteness are suffering to the point where they might even be able to set that aside. And when we talked about in the previous moment, we were talking about Wilmington, North Carolina, and the fusion, and Helen Edmonds talking about it wasn't because they liked Black people, it's because they saw a mutual benefit.
Right.
There's always that possibility, but you're right, race is then always quickly reinserted. But then there's also another group. That is the group who is in deep proximity to non-whites, who may indeed have undergone a change in values or a change in perception. And it's a small group. You don't want to rely on that group. But when we're out here now and you see majority white Black Lives Matter protesters in many of these cities, you ask yourself, what is going on here? And that some of it is youth, some of it is exposure, and some of it is the state violence has now like that 70-year-old white man in Buffalo. We just ran him over. I'm saying, you are
let him lay there
bleeding in the street, and then they all
walked over him.
Yeah, walked over and then resigned from that unit, although they stay on the police force in protest, in support of the guy
because they got suspended.
Because
they resigned because they got suspended.
And so what are we seeing there? We are seeing you push where they're testing what you just articulated. Whiteness has a material benefit. George Lipschitz wrote The Positive Investment in Whiteness. You go back before that, the Black scholars are saying it in the 1930s and 40s. But to the point you raised, there is a material interest you have in whiteness, but is there a limit even to that? It looks like these proto-fascists are going to test that. They're going to test the limits of whiteness. At what point do you say, wait, that was my grandfather. You know what? I don't really like black people, but I'm against you now. You just knocked my granddaddy down the street. I mean, so I'm saying once that happens, no amount of funded managers, no amount of people you bring in and give a couple of dollars to thinking you can control, and then they flip it on you or try to negotiate back and forth. No amount of those people are going to be able to stop that. And I really do think, finally, that these folks in the streets, when you see a Mikey Williams, when you see a pushback from the NFL, it's like I said, it ain't the NBA. This ain't the WNBA. Maya Moore and them sisters in Minnesota saying, you know what, y'all killing Philando Castile. We're going to wear this shirt. We don't care what y'all say. Or
Maya Moore saying, I'm quitting the league for kids in cages. I'm not even going to play this year because I'm going to fight
the best player on the planet. Right. Yeah. Say, I'm giving up a year in my prime. That's exactly right. But this ain't them. This the NFL. These are the ones who you have put to the point where they won't say nothing. Everybody, remember, everybody got on their knees after it looked like it was going to be a slave rebellion. And then once you got it contained, you still ain't let Cap play. But now your man's done shut off his mouth. And these cats who are all pros, now you got the stars. So I'm saying that's not going to be solved by March in August. That's not going to be managed by a great speech. That's not going to be contained by a lawyer, spokesperson for the families. If we're smart at this point, the lesson we must learn from history is now is the time we build coalition. And now is the time, if anybody strays from the coalition, we don't go chasing them. It's the old metaphor they used to use to us when they would tell us in graduate school, you know, the old story, the limping antelope. You know, you gonna chase an antelope for dinner, the animal's chasing the antelope, and then when they see one stray off and start limping away, they say they weak. So you go after that limping antelope. And when that limping antelope gets you far enough from the herd, it takes off running. Wow, that was the decoy. So anybody say, we're going to have a mark. That's a limping antelope. Look, let's no. Let's stay with, we ain't got to agree in this pack, but we all moving in the same direction. Do not follow a limping antelope. Because the limping antelope, you look up, you won't have no movement no more. And if the limping antelope is working for the group, he'll come back. You know what I'm saying? Because nobody want to be somewhere by themselves. And that's why I say I don't really have a critique. It's not about personalities. It's about strategy. But I would agree with you, Karen. You got to follow the money. Because these people are not going to sit on the sidelines and watch the social order that exists just implode without protecting their interests. They're not doing this out of conviction. They're doing this because they're like, look, we can't mess our money up. So yeah, expect more woke capitalism.